Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the I Heart podcast. My name is Jonathan North, and this is the very first completely brand new episode produced specifically for this show. Last year, my friend Sol and I ranked all 20 of Pixar's films from least to most favorite on her YouTube channel, and we had such a good time that I thought it would be fun to do something similar again for this podcast. However, finding an animation studio that we both like enough to have already watched every film they've made, or have a small enough number of films to make watching them all a feasible accomplishment, is kind of a challenge. We both love Disney, but they're getting kind of close to their 60th film, and that's not really a feasible goal to rank that many. Even DreamWorks is creeping up on 40. So instead I thought, why don't we rank all the animated films that were released this past year? Most of the big animation studios put out something, even Netflix has gotten into the animation game, so we definitely have enough material to work with. So that's what we're doing. I did see a few more films than she did, and she saw some different ones than I did, but between the two of us, we were able to cover all the big name theatrical releases, as well as a few independent and foreign films. I'm really excited for this one, so I'm not going to belabor the introduction. Let's just jump into it. Okay, well, I'll just get started. Since you only have 8 and I have 12, let's just do my first 4. So my least favorite is The Grinch. That's my number 12.
Oh, so I'm glad I didn't watch that one.
It wasn't like a horrible movie,
Right.
but it was very disappointing.
I felt it was literally meh, the definition of meh. Like they went too safe. They didn't take enough risks and things like that. Which I'm really surprised because when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks so cute and kind of funny. I'm kind of, here for it.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked really good. So, and I actually watched the original Grinch for the first time this year. And I really enjoyed it. I thought I was going to hate it. But, so I was like, I'm not like, I didn't grow up with the original Grinch, so I'm not like biased or nostalgic. Like I'm here if they want to make changes, and so from what I hear from a lot of people, they were like, no, it was just really like meh, like the story was just very simple. And I was like, oh, that's kind of sad because the concept was really cool. And I enjoy the Lorax, which is a Dr. Seuss story, sorry. And I was like, if they did a really good job, I think, in Lorax, that's controversial. I think they would do good for the Grinch, but guess not. So I'm glad I didn't watch that.
Well, maybe if you do end up watching it, we could do like a comparison episode where we talk about the 3 different main versions. There's actually some other like lesser known things featuring the Grinch, which I might look for, but there's like 3 main versions that everybody knows now, and it would be interesting to kind of compare.
Yeah, there's one that is like 2D, I think, like hand drawn, like a special or something like that. That one's very known.
That was like the original. That was from the 60s, but they made a sequel to that one that was based on Halloween. Apparently. I know, that's my reaction.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to find it just for curiosity's sake.
Sure. What do you have next?
For number 11, I have Smallfoot.
What? I love that film.
It was another one that wasn't terrible. Like, I don't hate any of the movies that I'm talking about today.
Okay.
Like, they're all fine. But there was enough weird things that I thought should have been a little better that I was like, I'll have that more towards the end. I don't know. There's just some things that didn't feel like they meshed very well together. Yeah, and it was a lot of things thrown together that, I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I enjoyed it. And if they make a sequel, I'll see a sequel, but...
Right.
Meh.
You think there will be a sequel?
Didn't it do pretty well in the box office?
Oh, I haven't checked on that. 214 million. Which...
What was the budget?
Oh, let me check. Budget. It was 80 million.
Oh, well, then it more than doubled its budget. So there will probably be a sequel.
And what studio is this? Sony? What is it? No.
I think that was Warner Brothers. Because I remember thinking that it was Sony and somebody said it wasn't.
Because he has kind of like the vibe of Sony. Like the face of the characters. You're going to be surprised where I have Smallfoot. Just saying.
Okay, well, for number 10, I have Next Gen. And for people who don't know, this was a Netflix film. And this was another one. I didn't think it was bad at all. It was actually pretty good. So it just ended up being more toward the end of my list because I liked most of what I saw this year.
Nice. That's cool. I'm just gonna wait for my thoughts for next
Okay.
gen later.
And then number 9, I have Early Man. This was
Awesome.
Aardman's feature film,
Right.
and I really like this. I know a lot of people who are Aardman fans were just kind of met on it, but
Really.
I thought it was creative and funny. And yeah, it was kind of a sports film, and I'm not really a sports fan. Like, I don't
Mhm.
really care about soccer, but I thought it was funny and creative the way they incorporated soccer into this prehistoric film, and just everything that they put into it I thought was really creative. It's Aardman, so
Yeah,
of
I
course it's
think
going to
that's
be
the
fun.
reason why I didn't watch it because I do personally like that style of animation. Chicken Run, a classic.
Mhm.
So I do enjoy that. Wells and Gromit, it's a great film, but I don't know. It's just like you said, the whole. I'm not into sport films, so I think that's the reason why I didn't watch it. And also just the combination between prehistoric stuff and mid soccer. It just felt like a weird combination.
Mhm.
But I don't want to judge it because I haven't seen it. I might give it a try, but it didn't look terrible. I'd rather have them take a risk than doing something that has been told 1,000 times.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate the risk. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it regardless because I love Aardman. So I
Hmm.
was willing to give it a chance even though I'm not a big sports movie fan. And I thought it was creative enough that it didn't feel like a sports movie, even
Yeah, I
though
kind of want to
it
watch it because of the voice work. Because Eddie Redmayne
Mhm.
is in
Yeah.
it. Who else was in it? Like a lot of great people. So I
Hmm.
want to. Did you like their work in it or
Yeah, everybody was great.
nice?
I think Eddie Redmayne was perfect for the main character. And they
Oh,
had a
he's
lot
so
of other people in the other caveman roles that I
great.
thought they did a great job. I can't think of a lot of their names right now, but they were all really funny.
That's cool.
Okay, so now we're getting into the 8 and beyond. So why don't you give me your number 8?
Okay, I actually I think this one came out this year. I hope so. I don't hate this film at all. I think it's a great children's film. The film is Peter Rabbit.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think about that one to put
It's
on
on
here.
Netflix, I think. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I know what you're talking about, and it's technically is a Sony Animation Pictures
Mhm.
movie. I
Right.
have not seen that, so you'll have to, you can give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know why exactly it's in my lowest one. I think it's because I can't remember much of it. It's not
Hmm.
that memorable. I think that's why I put it because there's other films which I didn't enjoy as much, but I still remember more sort of it. And this one is like I watched it and I had a good time. I was like, this is nice, but it just wasn't that memorable. I did like the acting because there's a mix of live action and animation. I think
Yeah,
the CGI was pretty nice. Just story was fun, but I think it was more targeted to kids, and
yeah,
so that's. But I don't think it's an awful film at all. I think it's pretty entertaining.
yeah. The trailers made it look horrible, but I heard
Mhm.
from lots of people that it wasn't as bad as the trailers looked.
Right. I've never read the original like book or anything. I was watching this with my boyfriend who has indeed read them, sorry. And he was like, this is completely different from the books, like
Hmm.
100%. But something that I mean, it's not a spoiler, but there's a little bit of 2D animation, which I really appreciated. And I was like, I like that. Since we don't get to see that often anymore,
Hmm.
I really like that there was a little bit of CGI, a little bit of live action, a little bit of hand-drawn animation. I don't know. I like that aspect.
Yeah,
What do you have for the last one?
yeah. For number 8, that's where I have Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, I almost watched that one on the plane because I'm like, I was watching the trailer and like I've never seen the original show, Titans, or like
Hmm.
any of it. So it's like, would I get it? Am I the right target for this?
I'd only seen like 2 episodes when I watched the movie, so I don't
Right.
think you need to watch the show.
And I don't know, I just when I watch the trailer, it just seemed like very like slapstick comedy. Like there's this balloon character that is like farting for like I don't know for how long. It's like, oh, this is really not my
Yeah, yeah,
humor. So I think that's the reason why. Which I was upset because it's 2D, and I was like, I really want to support them because we need more of 2D animation. But it's just I didn't want to spend my money on a film I knew I wasn't necessarily gonna,
yeah,
like the humor. But
yeah.
I heard really good things.
There was a lot of crude humor in it, However, it was also super clever. Like it's one
Really?
of those things where like if it had not had a lot of the in jokes and nods to the comics and been extremely smart, like it was a
Right.
very smart movie. If it hadn't had that kind of stuff, I probably would have hated this movie because there was a lot of potty humor. And I am not a fan of
Yeah.
potty humor, and it was chock
Same.
full of it. But I feel like the fact that it was chock full of that kind of humor and I still really liked it, I feel like
Wow.
that speaks to the quality of the writing because it was so smart. I think it would have been a lot higher on my list if it hadn't had so much potty humor.
Yeah.
There was like whole sequences involving people going to the bathroom in a prop toilet. It was like
Oh
it went
my
on for way
God.
too long, and I was like, we don't
Oh,
need this. This movie is smart enough without this stupid baby humor because this is put in here for little kids, like
right.
toddlers and six up to like 6 years. Well, if you're my brothers, you probably would have liked it well into your teens, but still, if for little kids, basically, we don't need this. It's smart enough without it. But
Hmm.
I mean, I still enjoyed it a lot because it was very smart and very well written. It just had a
Right.
lot of extra things that weren't needed.
What I'm thinking is, will the kids, because it's interesting, because I feel like what you're saying is like there's a lot of like, potty humor for the kids watching this,
Mhm.
but more of like the reference to the movies and comics, and that's more for the adults, because I don't think
Yeah.
the kids would necessarily get that.
There was
Would
so
they?
much in there that I don't think the kids would, it would just fly right over their head. I don't think they would understand half of the stuff that I thought was hilarious. Because
Right,
like
which
I've been
there's something for
watching these
everyone.
movies and shows and reading these things since I was a kid. So
Hmm.
I know what all they're talking about in these really clever jokes that they're filling the movie with. But yeah, little kids, I don't think they're going to understand any of the references.
Which
They're
I feel like I'm in their situation because I have seen some Disney films, but I've never read the comics. Most of the films I haven't seen. So that was also another reason which I was like, should I watch, should I not? Because I didn't want to critique it knowing that I wasn't the audience they made it for. So
mhm.
that was pretty much my reason. I was like, I don't want to give them a bad review if I'm like, oh, this is boring. No, because I'm not its target. I haven't seen the films. I'm not familiar with the DC world. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was really excited to hear from you since you like the world better.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's worth watching if you're a comic book fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about a non-comic book fan though. Like a
Yeah,
comic book movie fan. Like if you have like no familiarity with any of these characters, I don't think you'll get a whole lot out of it. I don't
yeah.
know. I guess it would be interesting to see what a non-comic book movie person thought about it, but yeah, it's the main audience for this is little kids and comic book fans.
And how do you feel about movies doing that? Like doing movies for a specific audience, and like if you are not inside the circle, you won't enjoy it. Do you feel that that's good? Is it not good? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I just think that they need to make sure that they have their expectations in the right place and how much the movie is going to make. Because the movie did well, but only because it had such a small budget. Like if it had had like
Right.
$100 million budget, it would have bombed.
Hmm.
But since it only had like a $10 million budget, it did well for
Right.
making back what it put out. So as long as they keep their expectations in check, I think it's fine. Just don't overspend on the movie if you know it's going to be a niche audience.
I think for me about like the whole targeting aspect is that like I think it's good to have the references. I feel like I love watching films, and if I'm part of the like fandom, be like, oh, I
Mhm.
get this. It's like a treat. I like that. But I think it's important for them not to just rely on those little like treats, and to just also focus on story and characters and things like that, so that the whole purpose of watching the film is not just this cool references, but you
Mhm.
also can get out and like having a good experience with develop characters and like good story. I don't know. I
I
think that would
I
make it
think
more inclusive.
I think in that respect, people can enjoy it without knowing all of the references because it is a well-written story and it's
Cool.
actually a musical. So
What?
yeah, it is. So there's a lot going on for it beyond just the comic book stuff. But even still, I feel like the main people who are going to like it are the people who watch DC movies or the DC TV shows or have seen the cartoons. That's the people who are going to enjoy it the most. But I think if somebody was like dragged there against their will, they wouldn't have a horrible time. I think it's entertaining enough. It's probably not going to make anyone's top 10 list.
Yeah.
of movies for the year if they don't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So up next, I have Hotel Transylvania 3.
That's where I have that too, on
No
number 7.
way!
That's where it
Yay!
is.
So I enjoyed the second one. Was it a fun time? I think so. It wasn't
Mhm.
like a film that I was like, oh wow, I wasted my money on it. No, I had a fun. I was like super excited about the third one. Not necessarily, but I was like, let's see where this goes. I found the film entertaining, but I just really, really dislike how they the relationship between Johnny and what's her name? Mavis, whatever.
Yeah, I think
The,
so.
the,
Yeah.
it's like they seem more like siblings than like romantic relationship. It's just like I don't know, they almost don't like the whole point of the first film was them, and then they just kind of like forgot about them. It's like I don't know. I wish there was more of them, and I like the music in this film. I don't know. I enjoy the film, but I feel like there was a lot of flaws in it. It felt weak.
Yeah, I can see that. But beyond that, I really liked this movie.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun.
I especially I liked the end. Like the end was with
Oh
the
my gosh, the dance
Kraken.
sequence.
Yes. That was so ridiculous and over the top and just hilarious.
Yeah,
I
I
enjoyed
remember
that so
being
much.
in the theater and like they started playing the Macarena song, and like it actually I wanted to start dancing, which is a good feeling when you're watching a film, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
I feel like this has a lot of replay value for me. Like the
mhm,
story, it's a bit cliche and
yeah,
it's no Pixar film for sure, but
for sure.
it's definitely watchable and for me at least definitely rewatchable.
Oh
I
yeah,
have
for sure.
no problem watching this over and over.
I don't know if I would watch it over and over,
Well,
but
not like in a row, but like maybe every few months I could, if somebody wanted to watch it, I would have
right.
no problem
Yeah,
watching
it's definitely not a terrible film. I just like I wish I'd just seen it so I could tell you specifically all my thoughts. But for me, it was just good, but not great. It wasn't like
it.
Toy Story 3 ending. It was just it was okay. It was fun time.
Yeah, definitely fun.
And I love cruises, so that was also fun. I just wish we had visited more places because that would have been fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of potential for this film, and they did they did well with what they did,
Right.
but they could have done more. But maybe
I
they'll go on.
completely agree. There was potential for more. The concept was good, but the execution could have been better. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with the fourth one because I'm sure there'll be a fourth one. Like
Oh my god, do you
it was
think so?
successful enough. Like I think didn't this one make more than the other ones even? So
Wow. So what do you have for the spot?
that's I had the same thing.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yay. Okay, so next I have Sherlock Gnomes.
And that one I did not see. That was the one that I missed.
Oh, really?
I
I was
was
gonna
gonna
ask.
try and get it watched, but I didn't.
Okay, so the first one I liked. It was sweet. I like the concept. Romeo and Juliet has been told 1,000 times, but and then when I see they're doing Sherlock Gnomes, I was like, what? It just feels so bizarre. And so I went and watched it, and I personally enjoyed it. There are
Okay.
many plot flaws, not gonna lie, but I did like the humor a lot. There was a lot of smart references towards Sherlock Holmes and Elton John, because the first one is all based on Elton John's music.
Yeah.
So I did like that there was very discreet jokes, and I just really like that kind of humor. And I thought it was just, again, I love when films take risks. I love the animation, the fact that you can see them and they literally look like these fragile little things. Because they're
Mhm.
like, garden gnomes. They're not plastic. These are very like fragile. So I think the animation was really nice. So I enjoyed it. It was like a very different film. I liked, again, it's not wow. I will have to rewatch this 1,000 times, but I think it was overall a cool concept that a lot of people were very, oh no, like we're judging it. But if you give it a chance, I think you're gonna have a fun time. I enjoy the humor, the animation. I don't remember much of the music, but from what I remember, it was really nice. So yeah.
Yeah. I never saw it. It looked kind of horrible to me. So I did not go out of my way to see it. I did want to watch it before we did this, and then I just had too much going on. I didn't get it
Right.
watched.
You should
So
watch it later and let me know what you think.
if
Because
I
I don't
see
know
it, I'll let
anyone
you
else
know.
who have seen it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's on Netflix, I believe. So,
Oh, okay, cool. You have no
well,
excuse now.
for number six, that's where I have Sergeant Stubby, an American Hero.
I
So
haven't seen that
this
one.
was an indie film that was highly recommended by Rachel.
Hmm.
Rachel was going on and on about how great this movie was, and I I did not hear about it anywhere else. Like Rachel's
Hmm.
the only person I heard about this movie from. I never saw
Right.
commercials, and I never saw trailers. It probably didn't even play near me.
Hmm.
So I had to go out of my way to find a copy to watch because I wanted to watch it before I did this because Rachel said how great it was. And it was actually really good. Like surprisingly good. The animation was nearly like DreamWorks Sony level.
Wow.
Like, and this is an independent film, so I was expecting something that looked like
Does
Hoodwink.
this go to theaters or was it straight?
Apparently, but it probably had a limited run.
Right.
And
Huh.
that's I don't know why they do limited runs of these things because nobody can see them if there's no advertising and they're in there for a week. Who's going to go watch it? I never get to see them because unless it's something that's totally on my radar and I'm waiting to find out when it's going to come out, it's it's not going to happen. And I think that's
Right.
probably what happened with this. Apparently, they had to even fight to get it on DVD and Blu-ray. Like there was nobody
Whoa.
willing to pick it up. I think Paramount finally got the rights to put it out. And I don't really know how well it's doing, but I hope it's doing well enough that the studio can keep making films because it's actually good. Based on a true story.
Yeah,
It's
I saw the
about
trailer for it.
yeah,
Like it, I think
it's
it said.
about a little dog who was in I I think it was either World War One or World War Two. Yeah, World War One. So the dog, he was an actual like quote unquote soldier in World War One, and it was just it was such a cute story. It was like
Oh,
it was cute and real at the same time. Like Rachel pointed out that they found a way to like realistically portray war in a way that's not going to be scarring for little kids.
right,
Like they were able to show like the realities of war
right,
without being graphic and gruesome and terrifying.
right. Which
And
that's very hard to do.
it is, and they did it so well. Like any
Hmm.
if someone died, it wasn't like shown on screen. You just they
Right,
did it in such a way that you know what happened, but they didn't like linger on the body or something like that, something that a little kid might find horrifying. They
right. And war is not like a topic you see a lot in kids' films, so that's a
no,
cool
no, it
risk to
isn't.
take.
And I don't think I would like it if they just made up a story. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I read historical fiction about different periods of time like this when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels weird to like make a movie out of that. I don't know. But this
Right.
is a
No,
real
I
story.
agree.
This actually happened, so it felt different. I guess it
Mm.
felt like something that I don't know a way to give kids a history lesson without making up some fantastic story about the war or whatever. It was
Right.
a realistic look at that period of time through the eyes of a little dog who actually lived. I just
He
thought
so
it
he doesn't die in the end, right?
no, the dog doesn't
Okay.
die.
Okay.
I think it would be lower on my list if the dog died.
Because they can't do that. That's the one thing films can do. Once they kill the
No.
dog, bye.
No, it was fine. So yeah, I would really recommend this one if you haven't seen
Nice.
it. Now that I've seen it, I think I'm probably gonna buy it for my
Nice.
brother's kids because my brother went to Afghanistan. So I
Hmm.
don't know, this might be a good way to like teach them about soldiers or whatever. I
That's
don't know.
really cool.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, it's good. I recommend it if you can find a copy.
Cool. So up next, oh, is see, this film doesn't deserve to be this low, but I take this film more of like how I felt watching it,
Hmm.
and that is Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this film, I think we talked about this briefly, or I don't know, I mentioned it somewhere. that when I was watching this film, I haven't had this feeling in such a long time where I was like, when is this over? How much long is this gonna like go?
Really?
I was so bored, so bored, and I'm like trying to understand why, like, and I think it's just because the internet for me is so interesting. I was like, so I love the first film, and I don't know, just this one, like, I really disliked the ending, the whole like mini Ralph. That for me was
Mhm.
very disturbing. And yes, it's cool that the villain is it's some not like a physical villain. It's more of like an internal thing,
Mhm.
right? That's cool, but it just didn't feel as exciting or fun to me. The only parts that I really enjoyed was the princesses because,
Mhm.
and we were all skeptical about that, but
Yeah.
I loved every second of them. And then when they appear again, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
I want them to do like a short with them. That
Oh,
would be
that'd
so
be
much
fun.
fun. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just for me, Ralph was so unlikable in this film, which, you don't have to like the main protagonist for a film to be good. I totally get that. But it's just for me, it was hard to follow the story when someone is so dislikable, you know?
Mm.
And I know he was made to be dislikable so that you can see the character arc, which it's a great thing about storytelling for someone to change. But I don't think this is a bad film. It's just there were things that really bothered me for some random
Mhm.
reason. But I don't think it's a bad film. Like I said in the beginning, I don't feel like it deserves to be this low in the list, but I didn't enjoy at all watching this film. I was just very bored and very disappointed because I was really looking forward to it. Um, yeah.
Oh, maybe it's one of those films that if you watch it again, it'll grow on you.
Maybe I went with too much like high
It could
expectations.
be because
It
that
could
that
be.
can that can kill a movie for people if you.
Because I really like the first one,
Mm.
and so I don't know. Something I was surprised is like I was sure that the character Yes was gonna be the villain,
I
and
kind of wondered about that too.
yeah, because Disney has done this so many
I'm
times
I'm
with
glad they didn't
Frozen.
though.
I was glad, but at the same time, I was like, she would have been her character for me was very boring. Like if she had been the villain, at least she would have something to it. For me, she
Mm.
was just
Yeah.
super bland, and I was like, oh, I thought she was gonna be, I expected her to be kind of like a Disgust from Inside Out, with more
Yeah.
sassiness, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I just didn't get its full potential, I feel like. But yeah, those are my
Mm.
thoughts. A lot of people will disagree with me, I know, but
Well, I'll talk about it more when I get to it because it's not
okay.
on my list.
Oh, I can imagine, it's really like up. I'm just a weirdo, I know.
All right, you're fine. It. I guess I can see why some people wouldn't like it.
Hmm.
I did like it. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
number five, this is where this is another not really independent, but this is a foreign film, Mirai, or
Oh, cool.
Mirai of the Future, depending on where you're reading, because I think I've seen both titles.
Hmm.
Either way, have you seen this one?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so because not a whole lot of people have seen it, but it apparently was nominated for an Oscar, so
Wow.
that'll help get it out there more. This was really good. Um,
I'm sorry, is this 2D? Is this CGI?
2D. It's from
Nice.
Japan by Mamoru Hosoda. He's done quite a lot of pretty big animated movies, anime type movies. The first one I remember seeing is The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, but that one I don't remember much of. It's been so long since I've seen it. It didn't leave a huge impression on me. I think I was expecting more sci-fi, and I remember it was mainly about this girl who's like living a normal life and she just happened to be able to time travel. I don't remember a whole lot of it. There wasn't enough sci-fi stuff for my liking, I guess. But he also did Summer Wars, which is another big one. This one I liked a lot more. I'm trying to think of which movie it would be best to compare it to. I wanted to say like Ralph Breaks the Internet because it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like that, but it's about people going in to the internet. So it's not like video game characters going into the internet. It's like actual
Right.
humans going into the internet.
Huh.
So that one's another one that he did that I really liked. He also did Wolf Children recently and The Boy and the Beast. Those were big ones too. Like I heard a lot more people talking about those than I did like Summer Wars and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. Yeah, this one, Mirai, is about. It's a weird choice for a protagonist. It's about a 4-year-old. Maybe he was 3. I don't know. It didn't seem like it had a huge potential to be like amazing or anything because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, not a lot of people are going to like totally connect with a 4-year-old. But they did it in such a way that you understood how the 4-year-old was feeling, and at the same time, I could. It was like, yeah, I don't really want kids because this kid is a brat. But he was realistic. Like he was an only child for so long, and then his parents bring home a baby sister,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's excited at first, but he quickly realizes that this isn't all it's cracked up to be. And at one point, he's like gonna smack her in the face with a toy train.
Is this kind of like Boss Baby?
No, this is like a real child. Like he's actually like learning to deal with his feelings of
Right.
jealousy and feeling like his parents are abandoning him.
Oh,
But they're not, of course. They're just super
right,
busy with this new baby.
right.
So then it kind of takes a turn because it sort of becomes like I heard people comparing it to A Christmas Carol because
What?
he's started, yeah, he's visited by spirits from the past, present, and future
No way.
who start to teach him like how he can be a better person and how he needs to appreciate his sister more. Like from the future
Mm-hmm.
comes his baby sister, but as a teenager. So
No
he comes
way. That's
back in
cool.
time to like teach him how to be a better person. And from the present, his dog comes to life as like a humanoid person.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically it's a human, but he has a tail. So, but it's still the dog's personality in this
Right.
person. And then different figures from his past, like his great grandfather and his mother, show up. Like his mother, his age, and his great grandfather as the age he was in a picture that he'd seen.
Mm-hmm.
But his great grandfather, I think, was in World War II, I believe. And he like rode motorcycles and he was just a cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these people start showing up, or he goes there, like he goes in the past. And it's never really explained like why this is happening,
Right.
which part of me is like, I want some explanation, but another part of me is like, well, there's no explanation in A Christmas Carol, so let's just go
Right.
with it. And it's written so well, and you like the characters so much that after a while, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, who cares that there's no explanation? This is a great story, and I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed it. And it's another one that I highly recommend if you can find it somewhere to watch.
That sounds actually really interesting. Like
Yeah,
that one, I'm really looking forward to watch.
yeah,
That sounds like something
definitely.
I'm really gonna enjoy. So the next two is like I feel like they're in the same place for different reasons. So I'm just gonna say one, but it's not necessarily one better than the other one. They're just
Hmm.
different. So it's hard for me to pick. So I have Smallfoot. I really, 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 really enjoy this film because I really like the message of like it's just a message that is very like abstract but also very direct in a way. It's like maybe if you're a kid you don't get it, but if you're an adult you're like, oh, I totally see what they're doing. And it's done in such a smart way, I think. And it's something, hard to talk about because it's something kind of controversial. It's talking about religion, it's talking about politics in a very
Hmm.
in your face way. And I thought it was really cool to see that in a kids film. It was just very interesting for me. And I wish that it was more like that the entire time. There was some moments where I feel like I was watching an Ice Age film. It was like a
Yeah,
bit kiddie.
yeah,
I wish it was more of like the other stuff. But I just left the film thinking, wow, this was so cool, so different from anything I've seen before. And I had a great time. I really like the music, surprisingly.
hmm,
The song Zendaya sings, I think it's
yeah,
beautiful. It kind of
definitely.
gave me a Colors of the Wind vibe. So yeah, I think it was overall, I had flaws. Like definitely, like you said, there was a lot of things they try to do, and for me, at times it felt like too kid, like for kids, like the humor. But
Yeah.
then for me, it just really surprised me the whole like element of religion and politics, which was done very well in my opinion. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that part I thought was really well written.
yeah,
It's just there was a whole lot of other stuff in there that just felt
right.
really weird to throw in and mix together. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was not a bad film, and I'd watch it again, and I'd watch a
Mm-hmm.
sequel. It just didn't get up
Right.
as high on my list.
Mm-hmm. No, that's completely cool. I loved it. What do you have for this spot?
For number four, I have Isle of Dogs. This
Another one I
one
haven't
was
seen.
not really a kids movie, but
Mm-hmm.
it was really good. I knew I was gonna like it, but I didn't know that I thought I was gonna like it enough that it was gonna get this high on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like surprisingly good. For people who don't know, it's about well, it's about dogs, of course, but it's a fictional. I don't know if it's supposed to be modern day, I guess, but it's like a fictional version of Japan where
Okay.
dogs are being outlawed because they have this fictional disease, and the government is ruled by people who love cats more than dogs. Which I mean, technically, I'm a cat person, so you'd think I'd be rooting for the people who like cats, but they weren't nice. So I'm for all the dogs. The dogs are basically shipped off to a place called Trash Island,
Oh, lovely.
and they're just left there. Like they abandon all dogs on this
Aww.
island, and the dogs eventually start getting together and decide they're going to like try and get back because a little boy shows up looking for his
Mm.
dog.
Oh,
However, the people in the movie, aside from one or two here and there, all speak Japanese.
what?
So the dogs are voiced by English actors who speak English.
Uh-huh.
So you're watching this movie from the point of view of the dogs, and
That's cool.
the dogs can't understand the people because the people are speaking human, but they're in
Right.
Japanese, so you can't understand them either. And I
It'd be
just
cool
thought
if
that
you're
was
bilingual and you can understand both.
That's true. That would be a very cool experience. But I just thought that was such a genius idea to have
Oh, for
the movie
sure.
be mostly in another language so that you're just as lost as the dogs as to what the people are saying. There are a few people, like there's some translators here and there and like news broadcasts that are in
Hmm.
English, and there's a foreign exchange student who speaks English. But other than that, everybody else speaks Japanese. And
No
I just thought
way.
that was so clever.
That is
And
very clever.
all the voice actors were great. Like they have Bryan Cranston as one of the dogs, Jeff Goldblum. They have all these huge big name actors as the dogs, and it's just so much fun to listen to them do their thing because they're
Hmm.
not normally voice actors, but they're all like really good actors, and I just thought they did such a great job. It was a really good movie. Like I said, it's not really a kids movie. Like some older kids might like it, but there's some stuff that like bothers some children.
Right.
But for adults, definitely go see it. For older kids, probably go see it. It's a great movie.
That's so fantastic because, like, I mean, there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, animation is just for kids." It's not.
No.
Actually, a lot of the Pixar films, a lot of the DreamWorks films are like mostly adults, like enjoy
Mhm.
it, and also kids. They have that great thing. But like, for example, there's a lot of films I feel like have come out lately that are more towards children, like Trolls, Captain Underpants, the Teen Titans one. Like, there's a lot of focus for kids. So it's really nice and refreshing to see a film made just for adults that is animated.
Yeah,
It really breaks the
definitely.
stereotype, and I think it's wonderful. And the fact that it's nominated for an Oscar is also fantastic.
Yeah.
So up next, I have Next Gen. Um, it's just I like this film because it's so weird and so different, and
hmm
I it was maybe because I went with so kind of like low expectations. I was like, oh, this is on Netflix. I'm gonna
hmm
check it out. Why not? And it exceeded my expectations so much.
Yeah.
It took a lot of risks. It was very creative, innovative. I just like the animation was very different. Also, it just surprised me in many ways. And maybe because I went with so low expectations, I end up so like shocked by it and really liked it.
hmm
But I just really like how different it was. The only thing I didn't like was the main protagonist. She was bratty and annoying at times. Which if I don't like the main protagonist, it's a bit hard to enjoy the film. But I liked everything else so much that I kind of ignored her a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
and so,
I really liked that movie too, more than I thought I was going to. I would have seen this in the theater. I wish they would have put it in the theater.
right.
I think more people would have seen it if they had
Hmm.
given it a theatrical release, because it definitely was the quality to be that.
Oh yeah. Number three. What's your number three then?
Number three, that's where I have Incredibles 2.
Hmm.
This I really like this one, and I'm kind of surprised that it didn't end up like at the top of my list because Pixar. Like Pixar is always the best, but this year was just there was a wealth of great animation, and
Yeah.
Pixar was not as good as what came after it, to me
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I really liked this movie. I thought there was so many creative sequences, and they brought the characters all back, and they gave them good character growth rather than just retreading everything that happened in the first film, because some sequels have a tendency to like, oh, here's your favorite characters again doing the same things again.
Hmm.
This is new things, giving them new scenarios and just building on the characters from what you saw before and doing it in a creative way. Like everything that happened in the movie was like really creative and fun to watch. Plus it had like one of my favorite animated sequences of the year with baby Jack Jack and that raccoon. I love that scene so much. It was so genius. Like even if you haven't seen the movie, and you don't think if you don't think you'll see this movie, at least watch that scene, because that scene is worth watching. It's just so well animated, well timed. Like they nailed the facial expression of that raccoon. It was like watching a new Looney Tunes cartoon almost. It was just so good. But
Yeah.
beyond that, it's just great characters. I loved the movie. It was so good.
So my way of responding that is I'm just gonna jump to my number two because my number two is Incredible too.
I
So I'm
love
just
it.
gonna talk about that now. I think this film is great, like really, really great. My problem with it is that it is pretty much a copy paste from the first one, just gender, like just now Helen is the one doing the missions and working for the bad guy. It's like pretty much almost the same story as the first one, but just flip, Helen and Bob. Which I was like, and then what I didn't like was the villain. I don't think it was like we all knew who it was gonna be. It was pretty obvious. It wasn't,
Yeah.
and the motives weren't so like Syndrome's motive in the first one was like, oh, okay, I can see it. Her in this one, she seemed more less developed, less interesting. I just totally saw it coming, but those are my only negatives. The rest I absolutely love. I think it's more rewatchable than the first one.
Hmm.
The animation is gorgeous. You compare them side to side to the original one, it's like wow, animation has really
Yeah.
improved. It's just all the small details from the clothing, the hair, everything's just flawless, beautiful, beautiful. And what I really like about this film is how real it was. It something that it's very likable about the first film and this one is how yes, it's a superhero film, but it's also a family film. It talks about
Mhm.
the problems with the families. And this film takes place in the 60s, right? And so like seeing Bob struggle so much having the woman do the job at that time was like a big deal, right? Because
Yeah.
women were not like now who are like, we get to do whatever we want.
Hmm.
But there was more, there was a conflict and you could see that. And I thought it was like, that's cool that they went there. I personally, my favorite part was just seeing Violet's story. Like when she goes to that cafe place and she like gets that drink off her nose,
Yeah.
that was so relatable. I was like, yes, I love that. I just really enjoyed this film. It had a lot of heart. When Violet goes to no, when was it? When she has her moment with her dad, it's like you're trying your best and everything like that. It was just a lot of heart that I really, really like. It was very tender and real and raw. And yeah, and the superhero stuff was freaking phenomenal. It was
Hmm.
wonderful seeing Elastigirl do her thing. And there was this one scene with Screenslaver with the lighting was kind of crazy. And I was like, I can't see. But everything else was so fun with the action. But for me, the highlight was more like the family aspect of it.
Yeah.
And we had Edna mode back, which I was a little disappointed with her scene, but because I feel there could have been more of her a little bit. But with what we had, it was so funny, and I love her. She's
Hmm.
like, I literally, you saw me, I dressed up as her for Halloween because she's one
Yes.
of my all-time favorite characters. So yeah, Incredibles 2 is fantastic, absolutely great. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff with the family, even though, like you said, it was sort of a reversal of the first one, it
Yeah,
still didn't feel like they were treading the same waters because of, like, I don't know, the gender politics of the time. It
right.
felt new and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was similar, it felt different enough that it felt fresh. I
Yeah.
I thought it was really creative and really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for my number two, this is where I have Ralph Breaks the Internet. Like, I had a really tough time trying to figure out where I was going to put in Ralph Breaks the Internet and Incredibles 2. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of went back and forth for a while because they were both kind of on par with each other. No pun intended. But yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was beyond the amazing animation. I really enjoyed the story, and I thought it was, I don't know, brave of them to like tackle such a non-child friendly storyline, like
Right.
toxic friendships, like
Mm-hmm.
one friend trying to hold the other friend back for their own selfish reasons, and then having to realize that they're kind of being the bad guy in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that it was so creative and well done, and kind of like a good lesson for kids. Like, this is probably not something that kids are going to be thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
like realizing that friendships can have a toxic element if one of them is trying to hold the other one back just just because they want them to stay where they are because
Mm-hmm.
they're not moving anywhere in their own life. And
Yeah.
they did it in such a way that, I mean, I don't want to say it was fun, because like that element of it wasn't exactly fun, but the story that they told with it had so much in it that was fun, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so creative and genius that I thought it was great. Plus all of the stuff, like all the in jokes and hidden things, like
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of genius the fact that they brought in a bunch of YouTubers to play different,
Yeah.
like either mini roles or main roles. Like, a, a lot of people aren't even going to notice this, but one of Shank's crew was Glozell Green. I don't know if you know who that
No
is.
way. Yeah, yeah, the girl with
Yeah.
the green lipstick.
Yes. No, she played one of Shank's
No
crew.
way. Because the
And
only one I noticed that I knew was Miranda Sings. She's
yes,
the
she
computer.
she was like the main one that people are going to notice, but
Yeah.
I know they had a bunch of different ones that I'd never heard of. But
Mm-hmm.
even though I'd never heard of them, I thought it was cool that they had them in there for
Oh,
like
that's
fans.
really cool. Yeah.
So I just tying all that internet stuff in, I thought was genius. Like, my main negative is how they portrayed YouTube to work. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
good. Like,
Thank
it was
you.
it was so unrealistic. Like
Like,
the fact
you're
that,
gonna make $24,000 in a day in YouTube. Like, that's
no,
ridiculous.
especially for someone just starting out.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's
I know,
probably the main thing that like bothered me. I was like, no.
unless Yes was like rigging the algorithm, because I guess she sort of was the algorithm. That's
Maybe.
the only way. But it was never portrayed that she was like rigging the algorithm. It just was made to seem like this is the natural way that things work on YouTube,
Yeah.
and that is not how things work on YouTube.
Yeah, I just wish it was if they had only lowered down the number to say $200. I was like, that could
Yeah, that would have
happen.
been a lot more realistic.
Sure. But they put in such an unrealistic number that I was like, I can't get past that. And I know it's a fictitious world, it's a fantasy,
Hmm.
but when you mix real life stuff as
Yeah,
well, it's kind of hard to see past that, you know?
yeah. But other
Yeah,
than that, I really liked it.
cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely really, for me, really great things. Like, besides the princess, I really like
Oh yeah, the
Knows
princess.
More, the Google stuff.
Hmm.
The concept was so creative, like with the
Yeah.
autocorrect. Genius. Love that. For me, something that I want to talk to you about. It's like the Emoji Movie got a lot of hate, mainly because there was a lot of product placement, apps, YouTube, BuzzFeed, not BuzzFeed, yeah, like all different apps, Spotify, and people were like, I was talking to a friend, and he's like, the reason Wreck-It Ralph is going to do so well because they're not going to use like name brands. And then I'm watching the film and I can watch IMDb, I can watch eBay, Wikipedia, and I'm like, why did people make such a big deal with the Emoji Movie? But when it comes to Disney, they're like, oh, I'm going to let it pass. That was something that I was like, I'm not a fan of that.
The deal with the Emoji Movie, from what I can tell, the Emoji Movie used brands that gave them money to give them a spot in the movie, and not just like a passing glance at them, like in Wreck-It Ralph or Ralph Breaks the Internet. You could see all these different brands in the background. Like there was tons of brands in the background.
Yeah, a lot.
Those brands, they were there because they wanted them to be integrated naturally, and those brands did not pay them for a spot in the movie. They just didn't say anything when they put them in. Like technically, I guess the brands could have sued them for using their logos, but they didn't because that would be bad
publicity
for them. They were just there as a natural part of the internet. With the Emoji Movie, these brands were paying for a spot in the movie, and there were scenes written around those brands. Like, I have not seen the movie, and I should so that I can criticize it more freely. But from what people have told me, there was like a long sequence in the movie where they were in an app.
Yeah,
like specifically,
I've seen the movie. Just Dance, Candy Crush, which one?
Yes, there was scenes built around those apps because those apps paid for a spot. So basically, there were commercials in the movie, written in the movie, and that's what people didn't like.
The way I saw it, I feel like it all. I mean, when I watched the Emoji Movie, I didn't see it as a commercial because I didn't watch the Candy Crush scene and be like, oh, I want to play Candy Crush. Honestly, no, not at all, because I've never played that game. For me, what I like about that film was that like you really get to explore the apps. Whether in this one, I feel like they barely, I don't know, this like when you watch the Emoji Movie, I'm not saying it's a great film, but there were some aspects I did enjoy. They go to Spotify, and it's all like wavelength, so it's like a river, and there's like and it's a music, so it's very creative in that sense. And I wish we had seen more of that kind of things with Wreck-It Ralph, because for example, I think it would have been so cool to get inside Wikipedia. Like there was a lot of like hint of that. It's so interesting, the internet, to me, that I feel like they just kind of barely touched on it. But again, it's hard. I mean, I'd rather have them go to places for specific reasons for the plot than just random places just cause. But yeah, it just left me wanting more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is the same criticism that people had of the first Wreck-It Ralph. Like they wanted more video game stuff. They wanted them to go into like the actual well-known video games. And they felt like they spent too much time in just one or two of them. And I mean, I can see that, but at the same time, they're using the world in ways that benefit their story rather than building the story around specific places. I think that that's smart and a better way to write a story rather than trying to write the story around a specific place. But like, I mean, I'm not going to say that maybe the Emoji Movie is better than I think, so who knows? But like, that's the main reason, is because they were using it as a way of like showing off this app or this thing rather than having it naturally integrated into the story. They were building the story around it because they paid the money to get it in there. Which, I mean, it can work. Like, there's nothing wrong with product placement if it feels right. And I'm not gonna. I shouldn't like criticize it because I don't know for sure without seeing it. But like, that's the main reason that people were more upset, I guess.
How did you feel about the ending, about her leaving her video game?
I thought that was really brave of them to do that.
Yeah,
rather than have it go back to like the status quo of, well, she lives here and he lives there and they visit each other every day. It's like they totally changed things up, and I thought that was really smart and bold for a quote-unquote kids movie. Like a lot of kids movies, like everything goes back to the end, the way it was at the beginning by the end. And it didn't give it like a nice super fluffy happy ending. It was like, it was a happy ending, but with a tinge of bittersweetness to it. For
me, I guess like I said, I totally agree with you. I like that it was different, like 100%. It's not like you expected something, but that didn't happen. So I think that's awesome. But for me, it's just maybe thinking that in the first one, she tried so hard to be able to play race with the other characters. Like she had been trying for years, and she had to build a car. There was this whole like the first film was all about her getting to race, and then all of a sudden she's like, I don't want that anymore. It was
I
like,
don't think it was like all of a sudden. I think from what I could tell, they've
yeah, some years
been
have
doing this for
passed.
years.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
like
You're right.
anybody can get sick of something that they really
Yeah,
liked at some point. And I think
totally.
that's what they were showing with that too. Like
That's a good point. Yeah.
just if somebody really likes something, it doesn't mean they're going to feel the exact same way forever.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And last thing, what did you feel about the Vanellope singing scene?
I love that song. I love
See,
that
I'm
whole
so
song.
confused because I'm a huge musical theater geek, 100%. Like, love musicals, everything about them. But I don't know why I didn't love that scene. It's just, I like the idea. It's really funny.
Hmm.
But I don't know if I liked the singing or there was something off there that I was like, but I really admire the idea and I really like I think it was funny, but it just there was something off for me. I probably had a really off day watching that film.
Maybe
um,
watch it sometime when you're in like a really great mood and maybe you'll feel better.
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I thought it was really smart and funny and
oh
like
yeah,
a
definitely
great.
smart.
It was
100%.
both a great parody of that type of song, but also a great song in its own right. I I just thought it was great.
Maybe I think that's the thing for me. I think it's a great parody, but I don't know if I think it's a great song. Like I don't know if it's something that I would play on my phone. Like oh my gosh, this song. I think that was my problem because I think it was a really smart parody, but I don't know if the song was for me.
Hmm.
So for number one, I think we have the same one. I
Yeah, I think
hope
we do too.
Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, that is my number one as well.
Yeah, so we agree on two things. Nice. Um, wow, this film for me, it's art, straight out art. Like,
Hmm. Definitely.
wow, like just walking in the first minutes, I was like, this is so cool. Like the animation is like nothing that I've ever seen before,
Mm.
and it's brilliant. It's beautifully done, and from the dialogue, the talking things, from oh my gosh, like I cannot even like talk. It's so good. The only thing I think for me is that I'm not a huge superhero like fan. It's just action things, action scenes kind of bored me. I like dialogue a lot. That kind of
Mm.
person. So I'm not like, ooh, I love the action stuff because for me that's not that interesting. But for people who love that, wow, they're
Yeah.
probably gonna
Mhm.
love that. But I think I love, for example, how much, for example, he's half and half, and on one side his mom it's Hispanic and I'm Hispanic, and so having him speak Spanish was so cool. I was like having
Yeah.
Spider-Man be half Hispanic, that's awesome on the big screen. It's just this film, like I even told my mom like you're not into superhero films, but just watch this at least for the visuals because wow, some the one scene that left me literally speechless and in awe is when he's jumping off the roof and there's like a slow motion of him like going backwards and there's this music
Yes.
playing. I was like, this alone deserves the Oscar. Like this
Oh,
scene, that's
yeah.
it, hands down. Wow, it's just I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. Go ahead.
No, no, I agree. The movie was like mind-blowingly brilliant. I
Mhm.
knew I was going to like this movie. I did not know that I was going to absolutely love it and think that it was better than Pixar's offering this year
Right?
in every way. Like it blew The Incredibles 2 out of the water.
Oh,
Like
100%.
there was no contest. This
No.
movie was amazing. Like, like the visuals alone were amazing, but then they had a great story to back it up with
100% great
great
story.
characters and just everything. Like I know you're not like a big comic book fan, but like there
But
was so many nods to different comic books, even ones that I'd never heard of, but like I
hmm
read about them before I watch the movie, so I know what they're talking about. They just integrated like the lore of the comic books in such brilliant
hmm
ways, even ways that I didn't catch at first, but then I read about later, and I'm like, wow, that's really brilliant. Like the main Peter Parker, Peter B. Parker, the one
hmm
that he's like a sad sack who's
Yeah.
divorced from Mary Jane. Like that even had precedent in the comics because there was like this one limited run series that like nobody liked because it was so depressing. But then they like take that storyline and then use it in such a brilliant way in this movie. It's
Hmm.
just it was so good. Like, and I feel like even for people who don't like comic books, there's still stuff to appreciate about the creativity of those stories, just the way that they're used in the movie. Like all the I like how different all the different spider people were. Like
Yeah.
totally different. Like you had the main Spider-Man and the one who's like the main Spider-Man but he's off, and that
Hmm.
alone is really brilliant. But then you have like the Miles Morales who's a
Yeah.
great new character, but then you have all these different ones like the Spider Noir who's in black
Yeah, the
and
Nicolas Cage one. I love that
yeah, and then Penny Parker, who is an anime
one.
character,
Yeah.
and Peter Porker, who is a cartoon pig.
Yeah.
It's just so brilliant. And of course, Spider Gwen, who is like a great twist on the character
Oh
too.
yeah.
Having Gwen Stacy become the Spider, not Spider Man, but Spider Woman. I guess I don't remember what
Hmm.
she had in the movie.
Yeah, something like that.
The have her get the spider powers instead of Peter Parker. Just all the different twists and things that they threw into this. It's just brilliant. I loved it.
I think it was very fantastic, and also the music was really good.
Oh yeah,
The music
I
was
didn't
really
even
nice.
mention the
I think
music. It was so good. It just it gave the movie such a different feeling than any of the other movies that came out this year.
I
And
totally agree.
it's not like even music that I generally listen to on a
Right,
day-to-day
same.
basis, but it just it just worked so well in this movie.
Hmm.
I loved it.
And I really like the, like we mentioned, is the writing. Like the whole like plot twist in the middle. I'm not gonna say in case someone
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
seen it. Um, I did not see that coming at
Me
all. Like I
neither.
literally gasped when that happened. I was like, what?
Yes, yes. Like I'm not familiar enough with comic books. Like I watch the movies and TV shows, so
Right.
I know like the mainstream comic book stuff
Hmm.
because of those things. But I had not read Miles Morales' story. I knew he existed. I'd read about him, but
Hmm.
I didn't know about the people in his life. And so this twist that happened midway through the movie blew me away
Oh
in
yeah.
the best way possible. I was like, this is amazing and brilliant.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like I'm sure people probably knew
Maybe.
people who
But
knew
if
the
you don't,
story
it's great.
knew the twist was coming, but I think it was done in such a way that it was still brilliant, even if
That's
somebody
true.
knew what was going to come of this later
And
on.
there's many twists in the film. So it keeps you very like on your feet, like what's gonna
Yeah,
happen,
yeah.
which I think is fantastic. Like, oh my gosh, that film, if it doesn't win the Oscar, oh my
The,
gosh, I'll be so mad.
I
But
feel the same way. It's like I kind of feel like it's probably not because like superhero movies don't really get a fair shake in
I
award
mean, Black
ceremonies.
Panther is nominated for Best Picture, so
That's true. I don't know if it'll win or not. And it's one of those things like I don't even know if I really liked Black Panther, but
yeah. But
it
just
was
to
not my
having it
favorite
nominated
of
is
the
a big
year.
deal.
That's true. I'm glad that it was nominated, but I don't know if it'll win
Oh
because
yeah,
it had a lot of flaws that
yeah, I
I don't know
agree.
if that's going to be. I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
but what I mean is like even having a nominee for like
Yeah,
the
that's
Oscar,
true.
if this movie, the Spider-Man one, it's a big deal. I think
Yeah,
it should definitely win though.
it
Has it
should.
done good in the box office? I hope so.
I've not checked recently, but I heard that it had done pretty well.
But yeah, I really like the voice acting as well. It's just a fantastic film. Like it really blew me away. I was like, this is something historical in animation. I feel like
Oh,
it's definitely
definitely.
something that is changing, has changed the game. You know, it's bringing more people, because in the past years there's been always this kind of same animation style, the what works, the formula, and this just breaks everything we've known about that.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad it's bringing that, and I hope more big like Pixar and DreamWorks get this feeling of like trying maybe 2D or a different style of just taking
Well,
more risks.
like I feel like Spider-Verse has already, I don't know, set waves in motion for other studios to start looking into the ideas that can come from this style of animation.
Yeah. And it's so cool because it also has really good humor. Because it's like, it's a serious film, but it also has like nice humor in there.
Yeah.
So that's something that's, I don't know, this film is just, it's something unique and very special. And so I'm excited what's gonna that change the animation world. Like you said, this could be
Mhm.
from that. So that's pretty
Plus,
great.
plus they are making a sequel, at least a sequel and a spin-off series. So
Oh,
more
nice.
coming. So I looked up the budget. It had a budget of 90 million, and so far at the box office, and it's still in theaters.
Yes.
So far, it has made 340.2 million.
Okay.
So it's already tripled back its budget, like tripled and a half,
Mm-hmm.
more than tripled and a half. So
That's good.
it's
But I feel
done
like it
very
deserves
well.
more.
Yeah, but I feel like it's done well because it has legs. Like it has been in the
Mhm.
theater for this long and it's still in the theater. It's still making money. It still will get more, but it just took a while for, I don't know, for the word to spread of how great it was.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
feel like the Oscar nomination can only help. I would hope. I would hope
Mm-hmm.
more people would go out and see it because of the Oscar nomination. I don't know. We'll see. But it's already been successful. It already has a sequel coming. It has a spin-off coming. And it sounds like it is starting to make other studios think about doing more in this style. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's already beyond the success of how great it was as a movie, as I don't know, as a franchise, as an idea, as an art style. It's beyond successful to me.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that is all of our movies.
Yay!
So, yeah, this is a lot of fun. I kind of want to do this like as long as my podcast does well enough and if I'm still doing it next year, which I hope I will be. I want to do this again. So maybe you could come back next year and
Yeah,
do it at
I
some
would
point.
love that. I'll try to watch more films by then.
Yeah. I really like this style, and we had so much fun like ranking all the Pixar films
Oh yeah, it's
that I
always
thought
so
you'd be
great
the
to like.
perfect co-host.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. It's just I think it's so great also seeing like someone who has so different like opinions from mine, like because we're both very respectful and like we're very open of hearing each other's like
Hmm.
arguments of why we like a film. So I think that's really really cool.
Yeah, it's hard to find people who are like totally respectful of other people on the internet.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it.
Well, I guess, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube as Animation Geek. Yeah, that's me. If you want to come check it out.
Okay, and I will try to have a link to that somewhere.
Cool.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me, and
Thank you.
I will see you in another episode because I'm sure I'll
Cool.
be back for something soon.
Not
We
bad.
still need to talk about Next Gen sometime.
We still do. I
It
need
would
to
be fun
rewatch
to do a
that because I
Grinch
don't remember
episode,
much.
too. Like compare all the Grinches. I think that
Oh
would be
my
a fun
god.
episode.
That'd be fun. Okay.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I'll have a link to Soul's channel in the description, as well as one to her video where we rank the entire Pixar canon. Next week I'll be back with another episode similar to the Barbie episode I did with Soul, except I will be joined by Rachel Wagner. The first half will be a re-release of the episode of iHeart Animation covering the movie April and the Extraordinary World, and the second half will be a Q&A, sort of a get-to-know-you segment with Rachel. I'm really excited for this one, so we'll see you then. Thanks for listening.